Hello, everyone. It's Lesley Timbol from Mental Iron. Today, the topic is post-Olympia blues. Now, I'm saying Olympia because the Olympia is coming up, but this can apply for any show. Now, having said that, a lot of times when we have something called post-show blues, this can be applied to other things as well. So while this is concentrated specifically on bodybuilding, it can apply to other competitions, other sports, but as well as, let's say, in business. Let's say when you complete a really big project, what can happen after that? You can have something called, post-goal blues. But once again, a lot of the principles that I'm going to be talking about today is specifically targeted towards bodybuilders. But once again, it can be applied to other sports and other genres of the industry, not just fitness, but it can be in business as well. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat, as I'm happy to address those. So post-show blues, what do I mean by that? Now, post-show blues is usually the feeling that a lot of bodybuilders have after the show is done. And this can be, the reason for it can be multiple. So one reason, hi Dave, how are you doing? So one reason for post-show blues isn't necessarily placing. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people who don't place the way they want to, because keep in mind, there's only going to be one winner. I mean, just look at the open lineup for this year. There's over 30 guys in the open. So, there's going to be a lot of unhappy bodybuilders, not because they didn't bring their best to stage, but in comparison to the lineup, it's going to be a really tough lineup. I'm really excited to see the show, not just for the open bodybuilders across all the categories, actually. So I think it's going to be an amazing show. So I encourage you guys to watch it. But a lot of those competitors, remember, there's only going to be one winner. So a lot of the times when you're a competitive athlete, anything that's not winning, if you're not number one, it's often, not always, but it's often considered that you've lost. So it's either you win or you lose. And so if you don't win first, you've lost. Again, I'm not saying that's the case, but a lot of bodybuilders will come across that they've lost or they've let people down, maybe their family, friends, maybe their sponsors, because they didn't win. So there's a feeling of that feeling of shame, of disappointing fans, as an example, or friends, or like I said, sponsors. So that's part of it. Another thing of post-show blues is you don't actually have to lose. A lot of times people, even the winners, even people who win, let's say the overall, or win their class, their division, they can have post-show blues, not because of their placing, but because they almost feel lost after the show. Keep in mind, to get ready for a show, it's months and months of very structured dieting and regular training. And it's not just training for the sake of going into the gym and just winging it. It's very focused training on building various body parts. So when you're doing that very diligently every single day for months and months upon end, and then finally you have the show and then it's done, it's almost, you feel lost because you don't have that structure. You wake up. So maybe the first day you wake up, it's like, oh, this is nice. I don't have to work out. I can actually kind of relax and enjoy some food. But there's going to be a period of time after that where it's kind of like, oh, wait a second, I don't have a structured plan. I may not have a specific goal right away. That doesn't mean you're not necessarily going to compete again, but you might be waiting until the shows for 2023 are released before you decide what show to do. Even for people who are competing and I believe it's in March, so correct me if I'm wrong, guys, if anyone's watching this. If for the Arnolds next year, I assume it's in March, but there's not going to be much of a down period before you have to be in prep again if you're going to get ready for the show in March. Regardless, you can still have that period of time where you almost feel a little bit lost because you don't have that structure. When you know what to expect with that structure, it almost gives you that sense of security that you don't have to think. You just kind of follow what the plan is. So it's not having that plan that can make people feel a little bit lost. and not sure what to do. So that can be another reason why they have the post-show blues. Another reason why you can have post-show blues is, what about when you take months and months and months, you get your body to a certain level, lean muscle mass, conditioning. Guess what happens after the show? It's very natural that you're going to lose some of that, some of that shape. And especially if you're going to go into what we call off season, where we put on weight so we can actually put on more size and more lean muscle tissue. When that happens, then your body's going to shift. And a lot of times we prefer our competition look or being in prep look versus our off-season look. So that can do a little number in your head, because when you're in your off-season look, you are supposed to be putting on weight. But a lot of times we see that as almost regression rather than progression. In order to build muscle mass, you actually have to eat more calories. That is part of it. But when you're used to seeing yourself in prep or on show day, you're comparing yourself to those pictures or that image of what you look like on that day. It's not realistic to look like that all year round. Now, you might see people, let's say on Instagram, posting and they look great all year round. They're either filtering their pictures. There's apparently there's different types of filters that you can use to really, adjust, whether it's the lighting, the shading, you can etch things in. I'm not sure how it all works. So either they edit their pictures or they actually keep on a very strict regimen diet, because that's part of their business, is their bodies, in which they do keep it on a certain level, because let's say they're doing photo shoots. Let's say they're models, they're representing a particular brand in a particular look. That's not the majority of bodybuilders, guys. So I need you to accept the reality is that in order to be the regular bodybuilder, which is not the regular person, by the way, but the regular bodybuilder is to expect you are going to gain weight. And for people who have a hard time with the post-show gains, meaning the weight that you will inevitably gain after a show, assuming you're not prepping for another show afterwards in your off season, associate the look of the competition look, the prep look, with everything that goes with that. So that also means the sacrifices of, let's say, not spending as much time with family or friends. It means not being able to eat certain foods. It means restricted diet. There's a price to be paid. And knowing that if you're going to do the show or compete in a show again, you will go through that process. And just remind yourself that the next time you go through that process, you want to make sure you're coming from a standpoint where you have some weight to lose. So at the end of it, you're going to have more lean muscle tissue. Because if you stay at the same weight all year round, how are you going to build muscle tissue properly? I'm not saying it's impossible, but for most of us, we don't have blessed genetics to be able to create more lean muscle tissue while keeping at a very lean conditioning. It's not typically possible or realistic. So it's managing expectations is a big piece. So a lot of times people are saying, okay, well, what can I do to, combat these, let's say with the Olympia, any athletes that are competing in the Olympia, how do they prepare for it? And a big piece of trying to alleviate the symptoms of post-Olympia blues is plan ahead, plan now, but don't wait till after the show to prepare for what's going to happen after the show. So just like it's not about, it is important to put some thought in how you're going to strategize your eating post-show so you don't go too crazy. I mean, certainly indulge the evening of and maybe the day after, but be careful that you don't go off track for too long after that, because the water gain and you can really bloat your stomach. There's a lot of unhealthy things that can happen if you don't bring it back in and do maybe like whether it be a reverse diet or something, but it's more realistic as far as being healthy to put lean tissue back on. So, it's having that plan afterwards that's really important, but mentally. So it's not just the food piece. A big piece of being able to combat the post-Olympia blues is being able to separate you being a bodybuilder or an athlete, so any sport, but I'm just going to say bodybuilders, the athlete, from who you are as a person. So how you end up placing at the show is irrespective of who you are as a person. You are not your placing. So yes, you're an athlete, but you're more than just an athlete. If your whole identity is surrounded as I'm a bodybuilder and nothing else, that's going to create issues later on. Because remember, you weren't born a bodybuilder. You had an identity before you started training. And there's nothing wrong with having bodybuilding as one part of your identity, but to have it as the entire identity is very dangerous, because that's when you put your self-worth into your accomplishments. Again, you are not the result of your accomplishments as far as who you are as a person. So it's important to distinguish that. So the other thing is, I would say, get support, whether it be from family, from friends, from professionals, if need be. I do a lot of mental game coaching. I'm a registered psychotherapist, so I help people with post-show blues. It's really important to be able to reach out and not do this on your own if you're not able to manage those symptoms within, let's say, a day or two. Another is, remember to pursue something else. Remember, bodybuilding is, I'm not saying you can't train after the show. I think it is important to have some form of exercise, but do something else. So let's say if you didn't have, let's say, a life coach before, so, and I do some of that too, get someone to help you to figure out what you're going to do after the show. And again, I'm not talking about just the eating piece. I'm talking about the living piece. How are you going to manage your life and your schedule after that? It doesn't have to be as structured, but being able to have a little bit of structure to give you some type of guidance, and then being able to have some flexibility around that, because it is about getting back to the normalcy of being in your off season. Another is implement some type of change. So even if you're training, you keep up with the training, maybe change up your training. So either do a different style of training, maybe do some hill sprints, obviously do some warm-ups, maybe go hiking or biking. So do something else other than bodybuilding, just to give yourself some variety and to give you that little bit of a change, so that when you do go into prep, you actually look forward to going into prep, that you're not doing the same thing all year round. And once again, I'm not saying you can't train and do weight training, but again, some variety can be helpful, even if it's within the gym as far as how you train in the gym. Another is delegate. So for me, I do my food prep. I don't have a food prep company. So after the show, I'll probably use a food prep company to give myself a bit of a break. So rather than focusing on spending the time going grocery shopping, doing the cooking, measuring out my food, I might just treat myself and have a food company kind of do that for me. And it keeps me somewhat on track by having healthier foods. But I also can have variety too, because when I'm in prep, and it's not just myself, for a lot of people, when we're in prep, our food choices are more strict. Now, you can still have healthy food choices, but have more variety. And I think that's where it can be helpful to have a food prep company. And again, it just kind of breaks up the routine of being so structured by having, and I'm not saying it's going to be for a long period of time, but a little bit of time where, a food prep company can do the meals for me. So that's another piece that can be done. Another is sometimes just getting away. If you can go on a vacation, great. You get a change of scenery. You can do different activities. It's just, again, a break from the regular routine, which I think is really important. Now, if you're not in a financial position to do a vacation, even if you just do something for yourself, it may be just like a night away. It might be, doing an activity where you do something kind of fun, whether it be with family, with friends, just something different out of your normal routine of when you were in prep. Like I said, it's really important to get back into the normalcy of life. And part of that is reconnecting with family and friends. So, it's not unusual when you're in prep that you're not going to be spending as much time with family and friends because of your schedule of, let's say, training, eating. A lot of us have jobs in addition to that. So trying to get in that social time is hard because it requires time and energy that we may not have, especially when we're in prep, especially as we get closer to the show. So we're asking our family and friends to be patient with us and to give us that time and space so that when we are in our off season, when the show is done, it would be good to reconnect with your family and friends and let them know, hey, I really appreciate you standing by me and supporting me and understanding when I couldn't spend time with you. So remember, they want to be in your life too. So if they're respecting your space, it's because they're respecting your goal. So a nice way to thank them that, or certainly it's nice to be able to thank them in person and spend time with them, because I'm sure you miss spending time with them as well. Another thing is return to the things that you used to do that maybe you put on hold since you were in prep. So for me, I haven't been to see a movie in a very long time. So I think sometime after the show, I'm doing the Amateur Olympia, then I'm going to go see either a movie or I'm in Vegas, so I should really see a show. So I'll probably do something like that. And I'm definitely going to go to a restaurant. Haven't been to a restaurant in Vegas, so I would really like to go to a restaurant. So I definitely plan on doing that and eating out. So remember, there is life after bodybuilding. And like I said, to help combat the post-Olympia or post-show blues, it's really important to kind of plan what you're going to do after the show before it actually happens. So you have a game plan in your head. It doesn't have to be super structured, but you have some vague idea of what you're going to be doing. And that way it gives you something to look forward to in a plan of some form that you can follow. So once again, if you guys have any further questions about post-show blues, please post them in the comments. If you're in the chat, I can address them right now. If you're watching this after the fact, post it in the comments below. I do check the comments when someone does make a comment or a question. I do respond to them. If you're hesitant about putting your name in a comment or a question, just send me a DM on my Instagram. So my Instagram handle is Lesley T_mental_iron. It is in the description below. Just send me a DM and I won't use your name. And if what I'll do is I can use your question or your question, or if you have a suggestion for your future topic, I can absolutely address that in a future video. So whether it's a dedicated video or the next question, my next Q&A, I'll certainly do that. Now, I do want to give you guys a heads up. Next week on Monday. So normally I do the Q&As on Mondays, the question and answers on Mondays. But next week, Monday is the day before my show. So I'm not going to do it next Monday, but I will do it the Monday after. So once again, there will be no Q&A for next week, Monday, because I'm competing on the 13th. So wish me luck, guys. But I will be doing, I will be doing the following Monday. This Friday, I will be releasing the video out for Post-Olympia Blues. So I will have that out. And Iron Therapy, it should be releasing sometime this week. If not today, then sometime tomorrow, where Dave and I do an interview. And you'll see who our guest is about post-show blues. So I think you might enjoy that as well. So let me just check the chat. If there's any kind of questions, I'm happy to address those. How big are your arms? I have no idea. I don't measure my arms, to be honest, but keep an eye out for the show on the 13th, and then you can see when I flex. Crystal, thank you for joining. I'm so glad you're enjoying it. Now, Crystal, if there's a question I didn't answer, because I know you did on a previous video, you did ask me some questions. I want to make sure I answer them. If there's a question I did not answer, or maybe you thought of a question as I was talking, please post it so I can make sure I address these. Because post-Olympia blues, it's something that's really not talked about, or I feel it's not talked about sufficiently enough. People talk about it maybe on podcasts as saying, this is what happens, but I want to give people some hands-on techniques that they can actually use. And like I said, it was important for me to put this out there before the Olympia so people can actually plan for this to be able to alleviate those symptoms. So even if you get them a little bit, it's not unusual to have a little bit of blues, because sometimes it's all the excitement. It could be the excitement of any event. I mean, any big event. But this, the Olympia is a big deal. But any kind of show, it doesn't have to be the Olympia. there's a lot of excitement, a lot of time investment, energy, focus. There's so much riding on it that when it's over, regardless of how you place, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's over already. You spend all that time, months and months of dedication, the training, the diet, if you do your posing, the mindset, all of that. And literally you're on stage for what, a couple of minutes and it's over, assuming you're only in one category. Now, if you're in the open class, you're going to be up there longer. But I'm just saying, like, for me, I'm an amateur, so I don't expect I'm going to be up on stage very long. And I put months in, like, I've been training since the beginning of the year because I did a show not too long ago. So I've been in prep pretty much all year. But it's, all this for like literally a few minutes on stage, and literally it's over like that. And it's like, wow, it almost like it's a relief. But in a way, it's almost a feeling of wow, I can't believe it's over already. Like, I'm at the point right now, I'm 8 days before I step on stage. I can't wait to step on stage. I'm telling you right now, I'm so hungry. I can't wait to carb up, but I won't be able to carb up for a while. I just I check in with my coach and he'll tell me when I can carb up, but it won't be for a while yet. But I know it's going to be over like this. And then I'll be like, guys, I don't even know where the time went. It went so fast. Right now, I'm like, I can't wait because I want to eat. I want more rice. I want more, I can't wait for the carbs. I already bought some chocolate that I have waiting for me after the show. No, I'm not going to open it up, but I mean, before the show, but I can't wait to eat. I'm telling you, I just cannot wait to eat. This is on my mind. And I don't know if you guys go through this, anyone who's competing, but I watch more cooking. And when I say cooking, I don't mean the healthy cooking. And I'm also talking baking. And I'm not talking healthy baking. I'm talking like the cookies, the desserts. And especially at Christmas time, there's a lot of shows that talk about desserts and stuff. I don't watch, I think the only time I watch the cooking shows is when I'm in prep. The time when I can't eat the food. It's so ironic. I'm not sure why that happens. And I'm a glutton for punishment. Now, I don't eat it, but I think about all the recipes I'm going to bake or make after the show is done. I think I might do one out of probably like 30 that I might cook or bake. And that's it. It's just, it's just interesting that, I'm just so food focused right now. But like I said, it's going to be over. Now, am I going to go through post-show blues? I already have my game plan of what I'm going to do. Will I feel a little bit down about it? I don't think so, to be honest. But who knows? Who knows? Like I said, I already have a game plan if that's the case. But like I said, I know what I'm going to be doing after the show. I'm going to be enjoying myself and that normalcy, going to restaurants, reconnecting with people, and doing things that I haven't done since I've been in prep. So I already have a game plan of what I'm going to do. But if you guys have questions about, like I said, what you're struggling with, please put it in the chat. Dave, wishing you the best for your upcoming comp. How goes the prep with the comp a week away? Okay, so Dave, yeah, like I said, I'm just focusing on food right now. I'm literally counting down until I can eat my next meal. And the thing is, my next meal, I think is 80 grams of protein, and that's it. So I cannot wait for carbs. I'm just saying. Anyone who has like 100 or 200 grams of rice, I'm so envious. Crystal, you covered a lot here. Good. Okay, Crystal, I'm glad I'm covering a lot. But like I said, if I'm missing anything, please feel free to ask in the chat because I'm happy to address these questions. Raul, how are you? Okay, are you and Dave related? No, not at all, actually. If you're talking about Dave Palumbo, no, I'm not related to Dave at all. How did I get in touch with Dave? I did a special promotion last year about free counseling for any bodybuilder in the month of December, especially after what happened with a lot of the deaths in a lot of bodybuilders. So we had lost numerous people. Like Sean Roden was certainly one of them. There was also, and there was like John Meadows, and he was a coach as well. There was George Peterson. There was a bunch of people, so I wanted to show support. And what I did is I contacted Dave saying, look, if you know of anyone, send them my way. I'm happy to help them over the month of December. And he said, well, do you want to promote it on RX? So this didn't even come into my brain to do that. I didn't even think about asking him about doing that. And then when he did that, I did that. And then we ended up talking, and hence, we developed iron therapy, because we thought, this is something that's missing in the bodybuilding industry. There's a lot of great bodybuilding podcasts. Like I watch RX for sure. I watch Think Big Bodybuilding. I do obviously Muscular Development. I do Fuad Abiad. I do I'll leave like Desktop Bodybuilding. Sometimes I do Nick Trigili's Bodybuilding and Bullshit. Like there's so many different bodybuilding podcasts out there. Oh, Dennis James, his podcast as well. There's a lot of good bodybuilding podcasts out there that are educational, entertaining. But as far as dealing with the mental component, I didn't find that there was much out there. And Dave and I thought, why don't we create something? So that's where iron therapy was born. So we're not related, but that's how I got to know Dave anyway. How much do you weigh, if you don't mind me saying? Okay, what do I weigh? Hold on, let me think. What's my weigh-in? I think I'm 110 pounds right now. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I'm 110, 109 something. Let's say 110 to be on the conservative side. So I'm 110 pounds and I'm 5 feet tall. Raul, how tall are you? I'm 5 feet, exactly. Now, having said that, Raul, and I don't know if other people have this experience. I am 5 feet tall, but when I do the day before the show, there's something called the athlete meeting. And this is where athletes are weighed and their height is measured. Now, for my class, I do women's physique. So they don't care how much you weigh. It's by height. So when they measure me, I'm always like 4'11" and I think 3/4. So either I shrunk with age or I get shorter in prep. I'm not sure which one. I'd like to think the latter, but who knows? So I'm somewhere between apparently 4'11" and 3/4 and 5 feet tall, if that answers your question. Okay, Dave, crazy to think it's been a year already. I know, Dave, it's flown by. And I don't know if this is an age thing, because I swear I say this every year. Every year it tends to come faster and faster. So again, I don't know if this is an age thing. It could be. But I do feel that time does go by really quickly. Crystal, I struggle a lot with the transition from being super strict in prep to allowing myself to have the foods I want without feeling restricted. And then how do you stop the guilt, even when you know it's okay to loosen the grip a little? Great questions, Crystal. So when you're super strict, remember, and I don't know if you went through this in your earlier prep stages, but if you're allowed a cheat meal, now when I say cheat meal, let me be specific. Cheat meal means eating foods that are off your food plan for a specific period of time. It might be one cheat meal a week, let's say, as an example. Whether you're in prep or let's say in your off season, one cheat meal. Now there is something called refeed, and the differentiation between that is refeed means you just have a little bit more food of the same food that you're eating, but a higher quantity. So if you're allowed, let's say, and I'm making this up, let's say you're allowed 100 grams of rice at a particular meal. Well, maybe your refeed would be 150 grams of rice. So again, it's the same food, but just a little bit more. So the refeed would be a little bit more of the same food that you're eating, whereas a cheat would be, let's say, a burger and fries, because normally people don't have burgers and fries as part of their prep. Now, if you think of this as part of being indulging, let's say in your off season, Crystal, you're still going to be eating fairly healthy, but you still want to earn those cheat meals. And how do you earn them? By being so disciplined the other days. Now, this doesn't mean you can only have one cheat meal a week. I'm just using that as an example. You might have 3 cheat meals. But as far as feeling guilty about eating them, also know that when you're eating them, you're resetting your metabolism. Because if you're not in prep, remember, what are your goals? When you're eating, think of food as your fuel. And it does different things for your body. So if you want to be a super lean machine, then obviously you have to have lean proteins, and you're reducing your fat. You're be careful of your carbs. You're putting your carbs around, let's say, your training time, before and after your training time. But if you're in your off season, the idea is you need to build muscle. And part of that is to gain some fat. So if you can associate, and I'm not saying go crazy and eat a bunch of 20 pounds of chocolate. That's not what I'm saying. But if you can associate the quality of the food, even if it's chocolate, even if it's something unhealthy, with having some type of positive effect on your body, as long as you're managing the quantity, and two, when you have it. So am I suggesting you have chocolate every day? No. But if you're, let's say, allowing yourself to have, let's say, 2 or 3 cheats a week because you're not in prep, okay, be super disciplined about those other days. And then when you are having those cheats, you earn them. And then you're also putting into your mind that these are going to help reset your body, because you have to shock your metabolism. When you're in prep, how do you shock your metabolism? Now, for people, it could be increasing their carbs. It could be increasing their cardio, decreasing their carbs. It makes things harder. In your off season, you can do a little bit more fun things to jack up your metabolism by loading it up with some unhealthy food, and then going into, let's say, we'll put it this way, you could do a really tough leg workout the next day. Then you can put those calories to good use, because you'll be able to push more, you're gonna have more energy. So think about, when you're eating the unhealthy foods, how can you use it to your advantage in your off season? So like I said, have a leg day or a back day. Do a big body part the day after you're having an unhealthy meal, so you can actually use it to your advantage. Like I said, it's used as a source. Is it a source to build muscle, or is it to be more conditioned? So if you associate foods, instead of saying foods are good or bad, and I'm putting that in air quotes, because I think we're taught that obviously fish is healthier, chicken is healthier, whereas, let's say, lamb or some other fattier foods are unhealthy. It depends on the goal. Now, again, I'm not saying have a whole bunch of high cholesterol foods, but you're being responsible. And I'm saying, if you're going off plan, if you're eating the unhealthy foods, you're doing at timed intervals for a purpose. I'm not saying you just go all out and just eat whatever you want every day of the week, every meal. That's a little bit different. It's learning how to be more strategic with your food. And again, seeing it as a source and how it can benefit you. I'm not sure. Did that help at all, Crystal? Let me know in the comments below. I weigh double, Lesley. Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you do. Okay, we're all shrinking, unfortunately, as far as height. Dave Palumbo has his clients eat McDonald's, that they have some sort of special sodium that's good. Okay, so let me tell you this, Raul. I know Dave personally, and I know a lot of his clients have benefited from eating McDonald's. If you ask Fuad, he has benefited from McDonald's too. I think it depends on your build. I don't think it's for everybody. And again, I'm talking about on a more regular basis. Now, personally, it's not that I dislike McDonald's, but I would rather have something else. For me, I like ribs. I like ribs and fries. Not that there's anything wrong with McDonald's fries, but for a burger, see, I'm not even a big burger fan. It's not that I dislike burgers, but if I'm going to have a cheat, I'd rather have something like I said, like ribs. Or you know what I really like? Ravioli, something pasta. Like there's no so, something very carb loaded. But again, what would I do? And again, I'm not having that now, but after the show, will I? Of course I will. Of course I will. And will I feel guilty about it? No, because I know how much I'm struggling right now with the food. And I also know that if I do, let's say I go overboard, and I'm not talking about just one night after the show or the day after the show. I know how to dial it back, but I make sure I don't allow myself to get beyond a certain point. I have a certain threshold, and I do not allow myself to get beyond that. So there's something called burpees. And I don't know if you guys know what I mean by a burpee. If you're not sure, Google it or check on YouTube. And I do them with push-ups. So anytime, because let me tell you, when you're heavier, it's a lot harder to do burpees. So knowing I have the threat of I am going to have to do burpees if I go over a certain period or a certain weight is a good is a good marker for me. I'm not saying for everybody, but for me to stay somewhat on track. Another thing that can be helpful, though, I know prepper people will have coaches when they're in prep. It's not a bad idea to have a coach in your off season so you don't get too off board. Now, if you want to say, hey, I think I can do it on my own, okay, do it on your own, but make an agreement that if you go over a certain number of pounds, so let's say you're at the 15 pound above your post-competition weight, or 20, like whatever that number is, you have to figure out what that number is for you, because it depends on what division you are, if you're male or female, what age you are, whatever that number is. If that becomes uncomfortable, make an agreement that if you hit that number, you're going to hire a coach for your off season and know who your coach is going to be. So plan who it's going to be. So I'm not saying you have to do this right away if you feel that you can have control or you want to give yourself the opportunity. But like I said, this is part of managing your post-Olympia or post-show blues. Have a game plan as your backup that if you cannot get back on track, have someone in mind. Do your due diligence already about who it's going to be. And if you need to contact them, if you get to that weight range, whether it's, again, 10, 15, 20 pounds, whatever it is, then you hire them. It's not a punishment. It's just saying, I need to be accountable to somebody. Okay. So either you can talk badly about yourself, about, why did I let myself go to shit? Or you can do something about it. It's your choice. Take action is what I'm trying to tell you guys. Okay. Hi, Alaric. How are you doing? Nice to see you. Okay, so Dave, when training and diet have both gone off the rails, what techniques do you suggest to help get back on track? Dave, what I would suggest is have a mini goal. And that could be, now I'm not saying you have to do a show or like any type of competition, but I would say get out, let's say a pair of pants or a shirt that you haven't worn in a while because you can't fit into it. Hang it where you can see it every day as a reminder, as a visual reminder to do something about it. And that might mean, okay, you know what? I don't feel like going to the gym, but I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to take a nice 20 to 30 minute walk today. And that's something more than I did yesterday. Make small incremental steps and then up your game the next day. So whether you increase the walk from 20 minutes to 25 minutes, or you change it to doing running, like when I say intervals, I mean you might jog for a bit, you might walk for a bit, you might jog for a bit, you might walk for a bit, and then you can shorten the time a little bit. Change it up, but always give yourself something, but that visual reminder of, hey, I want to fit in those shorts, or I want to fit in that shirt, or that bathing suit, or whatever it is. Have a visual reminder to keep you on track. And then if you need something else, hire someone to be accountable to. Because when we pay someone, we're more vested because we've actually invested in somebody to actually do our part of the bargain. If their part of the bargain is to tell us what we need to do, otherwise we're just spending money for nothing, which I don't know many people who want to do that. So it almost forces us to do something. So like I said, have that visual reminder of a piece of clothing that you want to fit into. And if that doesn't work, hire someone so you can be accountable to them. So hopefully that helps, Dave. Okay, Lesley, is there any tension or competitiveness between female bodybuilders? Okay, so for me, I'm in women's physique, so I can't talk to the women bodybuilders. But as far as the people in the women's physique, the experience I've had is that everyone's very, very supportive. Now, people tend to be quiet in, so there's the more like there's the evening show and the morning show, but so there's basically the kind of like where they do the stuff where they're really critiqued. I'm sorry, I'm going blank right now. It's probably because I need carbs. What do you call it when the first part of the show and then you have the actual show? I can't even think about what this is called right now. But when you have the first part of the show where you do your quarter turns and your comparisons, people are usually quiet because they're kind of focused on what they need to do. Then there's that little break in between, and then people are more chatty. And then we talk about food. And again, it's about what we're going to eat after the show. And then the evening show comes in, and as we're getting ready or waiting backstage, we're talking about, we're offering, hey, after the show, and then everyone's kind of showing what they brought, whether it be muffins or cookies, and we kind of share things. So it's a very, like, for me, I've always had a positive experience. I don't know if everyone's had that experience, but it's very positive in the respect of we want everyone to be their best. We want everyone to have a good time. We know how hard it is too. So again, I don't know if all the divisions are like that, but I can only express what I've experienced. And so far, I've always had a very positive experience. So I'm very fortunate. If there's anyone else that's had any other experiences, please post it in the chat, please. Crystal, yes, I've been competing for almost 10 years. The last 2 as an IFBB pro. No one is immune from these mental struggles. Crystal, by the way, congrats on becoming a pro. That's amazing. What division are you in, if you don't mind me asking? Alaric, you like ravioli too? Okay, Alaric, what's your favorite ravioli? Do you have a favorite? And what I mean by that, because you can have ravioli with cheese in it, you can have it with meat, you can have it with crab or lobster. Like, is there any kind of ravioli that you gravitate towards? Dave, excellent advice. Lesley, such a great episode. Thank you, Dave. Bikini. Crystal, hats off. Bikini is brutal. That's a brutal division. So again, much respect to you. Congrats. When was your last show, Crystal, if you don't mind me asking? And I agree. I think, pros could really benefit. So if you can spread the word to people about this podcast, if you know anyone who's competing, maybe they can benefit. And obviously, if they want to contact me and work with me directly, they can absolutely do that. I'm happy to work with anyone, whether it be now and helping them get ready for the Olympia, because we all know, post-show blues aside, getting ready for a show, excuse my language, can be a really big mental fuck, okay? And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of pressure, but what happens is that the days leading up to the show, so the 7 days leading up to the show is known as peak week. And there can be changes to that. And I'm not saying drastic changes, but there can be some changes, whether it be with the water, with the salt. For me, my water usually keeps the same. If anything, it goes up a little bit. My salt stays the same. But there'll be slight changes. I mean, I'm looking forward to the carb loading for sure. But I mean, there'll be some changes. And as the pressure can come, people can get in your head. And there can be people who don't necessarily get in your head in necessarily a negative way, and they may not intend to, but they might say things that could trigger you. Or let's say if you're on social media and you're comparing yourself to other people's pictures, let's say they might be competing at the same show in the same category as you, and you're comparing yourself. Remember that like Instagram, Facebook, whatever, those are highlight reels. How many people, not the majority, put it that way, not the majority of people will post pictures where they look horrible in. They'll do their before and after, but when they're in prep, they try to do the more positive pictures. They want to show progression. So I understand that. But remember, someone can, and you might have even noticed this, you'll see people who are posting and they look absolutely phenomenal on Instagram. Then you see them on stage and you're like, what the hell happened? You never know what happens between Instagram and show day. And even if they look the same from Instagram to show day, you don't know how you're going to compare until you're actually beside your competition. That's where you really notice. So let me give you an example. Derek Lunsford, he is going into open. I don't know if you've seen what he looks like on Instagram. I think he looks phenomenal. I don't know what he's going to look like compared to everybody else on stage. I can't wait to see it. Am I cheering everyone on? Of course I am. But the problem is that when you have to be careful about putting things into perspective. So whether you're a pro or whether you're an amateur, whether it's post-Olympia blues, whether it's just the normal stress getting ready for a show, mentally, it's important to be in the right headspace or being able to have the tools to get in the right headspace. And if you don't have the tools, have someone like myself that you can talk to be able to get yourself into a better headspace. I remember there were some girls backstage in previous shows, and they would be seeing other girls, and they're having those, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, those little Snickers bars. They're like Halloween size. And they would be eating those before they go on stage. And other girls would be having rice cakes with, let's say, jam or peanut butter, and sometimes both. And some people will be having other things. And then they get inside their heads and they're like, well, maybe I should be having it. Let's say the girls who are having the rice cakes, maybe I should have a Snickers bar because that's what their coach is telling them to do. Be careful of who you listen to. Listen to one person, and that should be your coach. If you've trusted your coach this far, take it all the way. Because if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, you and your coach learned something. If it's your first prep and it doesn't go the way you want, it's not necessarily your coach's fault, because you don't know if this is their first time working with your coach about what to expect from your body, because everybody's body is different. But if you've tried your coach before and you're not having positive results, then you might want to consider another coach, assuming that you actually followed what your coach is saying. Because if you're not following what the coach is saying, that's not on the coach, that's on you. But from a mental standpoint, as far as dealing with the stress leading up to the show or after the show, if you don't have the techniques and tools, get someone on board, ideally someone who has expertise. Like I said, I'm not just a bodybuilder. I'm also a registered psychotherapist and a mental game coach for athletes. You want someone like myself in your corner that you can talk with to help you get through this process. Okay, so let me go back here. Alaric, cheese, you like the cheese ravioli? Okay, yeah, cheese is good too. Okay, so, Crystal, April 30th, Girl Power was my last show. Okay, cool, so April 30th is when you competed. Awesome. Are you planning on competing next year, Crystal? Now, I appreciate that the schedule hasn't been released yet. At least when I last checked, it hasn't. Maybe it has been now, but hasn't been released for next year. Was there a particular show that you had your eye on for next year? Jonathan. Oh, hi, Jonathan. How are you doing? My birthday is next week. Right, that's right. Happy early birthday, Jonathan. So in case you didn't catch it, I won't be doing a live Q&A next week because I'll be competing the day after. So I'll need that day before because I'll be doing the athlete meeting, the tanning, practicing my posing. So I'm going to be kind of in a particular zone. So that's why I won't be doing the Q&A next week, but I will be doing it the following week. So I wish you a happy early birthday. Anything else, guys? And by the way, just to help, and again, I'm not an expert on algorithms, but if you guys can give this video a thumbs up, then hopefully more people will be able to access this information, and hopefully it will benefit them in an upcoming competition, whether you're a bodybuilder, a different athlete. And like I said, a lot of these tips can be applied to, let's say, even business settings, whether it's goals, whether it's a house renovation, whether it's hitting a particular target at work, whether it's writing a book. Like there's different kinds of targets people can have in their lives. And then when they hit that big target, you can have that feeling of almost loss afterwards. So once again, if you guys can give this a thumbs up, that would be great. The more people can access the information, the more it can help. And that's why I'm doing this, is to help as many people as I can. All right, so Crystal, I'm not sure if I will compete next year. I needed a break after competing this spring. I lost some love for it, but it's starting to come back. Crystal, you know what? I'm at the point right now in my prep where I could feel that I'm not going to compete again. But I felt this way before, so I know it could definitely change. But, when you compete, there does come a time where you may want to hang things up for a whole bunch of reasons. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you don't love it anymore, for whatever reason, it might be just saying it's time to move on. It doesn't mean it didn't have a time and a place for it, but it might be time to move on. But it's important to know what you're going to move on to. So having a plan in place for that. Now, if your love is starting to come back, okay, so that might mean there could be some possibility, but you can always reassess. You don't have to make that decision right now. And again, once the schedule gets released, wait until the new year comes in, see how you feel with your training. You'll know if you want to do it or not. And if you don't want to, don't force yourself. Just because, let's say, friends or other people in the gym are competing doesn't mean you have to compete. Remember, competing is a choice. This is something we choose to do. Now, if you're getting pressure from other people to do it, that's a different story, in which case, if you want to talk to me about that, we can. Because I don't feel like that anyone should be forced to compete if they don't want to. Now, some people compete and they want to, but they may not. They probably shouldn't, and that might be for, let's say, health reasons, where they might be pushing the markers into a danger zone, and that's a different story. That's not your story. But just gauge it, see how you feel, take it month by month, season by season, and see how you feel. And just reassess at that point in time. Because again, when you compete, it's a commitment. You've done this numerous times. You've done it for, 10 years. You know what to expect. And whether it's to hang up the suit, or it's to saying, you know what, maybe I'll take a year off, or maybe I'll compete later on in the year. Okay, see what happens. But I wish you the best, regardless of whatever your decision is, Crystal. And if there's anything I can do to help you in your process moving forward, please contact me, okay? I'd be happy to help. Your birthday's next Thursday, Alaric. Okay, well, happy early birthday to you too, because again, I won't be on doing the Q&A next week, so I'll miss saying happy birthday. So let me say happy early birthday to you now. And thank you very much for the best wishes. Thank you, Alaric. Do you think you're going to win? It's hard to know. You never know, because it doesn't matter what I present. It depends on who I'm standing beside. So I know I just bring my best package, and that's all I can do. I can just bring my best. That's all I can do. So that's all I'm focused on. Focused on what I do. I stick in my lane, and whatever happens is up to the judges. But I know I put in my best, and that's all I can ask myself. So we'll see. I wish I could compete, Alaric. You know what, Alaric? If you want to compete, I would say either find out what are the barriers for you to compete. Now, if there's physical barriers, then just saying, is there other ways you can compete? Now, I'm not saying competing from a bodybuilding standpoint, but is there other kind of challenges that you could do where you can still feel involved in working towards a goal? Because sometimes we feel that, a lot of times, and I did a video on this a while ago, as far as why people can feel depressed, is because they don't have their why. As far as what's their reason for living, what's their purpose in life. So now I'm not saying your purpose in life has to be competing, but as far as having goals, I think it's really important to have some type of goal in your life. And again, it doesn't have to be bodybuilding or any kind of athletic, but just having something to work towards, I think, is really important. Crystal, thank you. Okay, you're so welcome. Queen Lesley is going to, I don't know about the Queen, but thank you. I appreciate that. And well, I'll let you know. I'll for sure let you know. So again, I won't be on next week, but the following week, and I can let you guys know how it all went. Bring your best, and you've already won. Crystal, yes. Thank you. And I appreciate that. Yeah, I already see myself as a winner, and I don't mean that arrogantly. I'm just saying, because I know I'm bringing my best package to date, and I know I've given it my all, literally my all. So, but yeah, all I can think about is food right now. Okay. I stay involved in the sport, so that helps. Alaric, that's awesome. Hey guys, just out of curiosity, who's your top 5 or top 6? Do you guys have your top 6 in the open class? Alaric, if you're in the sport, Who's in your top 6? This is going to be a tough, you know what? The top 20 is going to be hard. So, you know, the people who are like the open bodybuilders that are competing, it's such a deep lineup. And for me, I don't think it's been this deep for quite some time. So I'm hoping now I'm not wishing any ill will on any bodybuilder, but just from the shows I've seen thus far, not everyone brings their best package on show day. And remember, sometimes the show day, there's the 2 days. It's spread over 2 days. So I hope everyone brings their best. But there's always going to be someone or some people who don't, for whatever reason. Maybe their peak didn't go properly. I'm not saying it's intentional by any stretch of the imagination. Things can go wrong. Let's say cortisol levels go up. You can follow the plan to the T. But if your cortisol levels are sky high, that's going to impact your potentially, let's say, retaining water. So it's not that you're fat, but you can come across looking that you're soft because you're retaining water. Again, not because you're not conditioned, but because of the stress can actually cause you to certain people to hold water, which will make them look softer than, let's say, a competitor. And obviously the judges are going to go for people who are looking a lot tighter, a lot more conditioned. Obviously the muscularity is important versus someone who's soft. Again, I just hope everyone brings it and let's see what happens. I can't wait to see what happens. All right, so Dave, Rami, if he stays the course and everyone else is competing for second. Brand, yeah, you know what? I agree. I think Rami's going to win unless something happens. If he stays the course, I agree with you, Dave. If he stays the course and nothing goes wrong with his the last week in the final prep, then I see him winning. I do see him winning as well. Brandon, as far as being second, he might. You know, I hope he does. I like Brandon very much. The other people I want to see up there is, I mean, I've always liked Hottie. I think, you know, he brings such a unique conditioning to stage. I think that should be rewarded, so he should be up there. William Bonac has really dense muscularity that only comes with maturity and a lot of hard work, and I hope he's up there as well. There's some new guys that I wouldn't mind seeing in the top 6 as well. And whether that's Derek, whether that's Andrew Jacked, whether that's Samson Dowda. I mean, Samson looks amazing. So, I mean, to be honest, they all look amazing. I have to say that. They all have to look amazing. But, you know, and then there's obviously Nick Walker. So, and can't forget, you know, Hunter Labrada. He's got in a great shape, and he looks much better for sure than he did last year, and he's put on muscle, and his conditioning is better. He's been working with, oh shoot, why do I keep forgetting his name? Ben. He's working with Ben, and I think Ben's really helping him with his conditioning. But anyway, I can't wait to see these guys. I really can't. William Russ. Okay, yeah, gotta go. Peace and blessings. Alaric, thank you for joining. I appreciate you joining. Thanks so much, and for contributing. Once again, guys, if you can give the video a thumbs up, just so we can get the word out and the content out, that would be great. So I think, you know what, guys, I'm gonna end it for now. I'm gonna get my meal in, and then I have a client call. So once again, thank you for everyone for joining. If you can give it a thumbs up, that I'd really appreciate it. Once again, I just want to get the content out to as many people in the athletic industry as possible. If I can help you directly, shoot me a DM. I'm happy to work with you. And I look forward to speaking with you guys all at my next Q&A. And who knows, I might be able to bump into Sid at the Olympia and make a little appearance and say hi there. So guys, I'll see you and I'll talk to you after the Olympia. All the best. Remember, have a great rest of your day and keep your mental game on.